Hi, my name is Professor Charles Jeffries, and I teach psychology at Seattle Central and Green River Colleges. And because of the virus that's out there, we have to do all our classes online. And so this first lecture is going to be on introduction to the field of psychology. So first, I'm going to talk about the goals of psychology. Then I'm going to talk about different occupations in psychology. Psychology, as a discipline, basically is the study of human behavior and information processing. Behavior and information, why people do what they do, and what was going on up here as they were doing it. And there are four goals of psychology: description, explanation, prediction, and control. Describe, explain, predict, and control. Description, paint a mental picture. Describe your living room. Describe your best friend. Describe your car. You're painting a mental picture. And the more accurate your description is, the better able that person is to understand what's going on or come up with it. Or when you talk about description of behavior, the same thing. The more accurate your description is, the better able to explain what's going to happen. One way to do that, one of the biggest problems in social sciences in general, psychology in particular, is to get agreement among observers. You can have 5 trained clinical psychologists observing a particular individual or a particular phenomena, and you can have 5 different interpretations of what's going on if you don't have some type of tool to have agreement on the observer. And one way psychologists do that is through what they call operational definitions. Operational definition, to define a concept by the operations used to measure it. Define a concept by the operations used to measure it. In other words, how do you define weight? When someone asks you how much you weigh, you tell them so many pounds. How tall are you? So many feet, so many inches. In other words, you can get everybody to look at that and come look at the scale and see the same thing, or look at the ruler and see the same measures. And that's where the operating, we kind of get agreement on observers, and we use terms that everybody can agree upon. Aggression, those behaviors set out to hurt another individual. Once again, you can count the number of times someone aggressive against child A, his child B, or whatever. Okay, unless they're Bruce Lee and they move so quick you can't set the camera in slow motion. But either way, describe and then explain, and once try to make sense out of what you just saw. Okay, but think about that. Explanation. You ever go out with somebody, someplace with somebody you thought you needed something really bizarre, and now the next thing comes up, either you don't say anything, it's what? Why? Why they do that? Or why did she say that? Okay, so what you're doing, you're seeking an explanation, or trying to make sense out of what you just saw. Okay, and the more accurate your explanation is, the better able you predict what's going to happen next, which brings to the third goal of psychology: prediction. What's going to happen next? A strong theory has predictive power. A strong theory has predictive power. In other words, if you can't predict anything with a theory, it's just good literature. And in psychology and social sciences in general, there's a lot of good literature out there. Oh man, this theory makes it beautiful, it makes great sense. But can you predict anything from it? That's the bottom line. We're talking about psychology. A strong theory has predictive power. Now, once you can make accurate predictions, you can start taking control. Control, the power to influence or direct people's course of action. Okay, that would be in terms of control. Or, it's raining outside and you need to go someplace. So how do you control getting wet? You get an umbrella or a raincoat, right? So you're taking control. But let's get an example. I mean, some people who work in daycare, you might be related to this. So most of the day, these kids are pretty mellow and they're out there interacting. But last week and day before yesterday, they're fighting and screaming and breaking things and cutting up. And then maybe as you think back and did some possible observations, you learn that on the days that they were acting out, they were eating a lot of sugar products like pancakes or donuts. And maybe you might even experiment. Say one day give them donuts, and the next day give them eggs and toast, and observe their behavior. And then you see, wow, that you're right. They act out when they eat sugar products. So one way to control that is what? Don't give them sugar products. Okay, but let's talk about occupations of psychology now. Occupations. There are 2 main areas of psychology: applied and research. Applied, using basic principles of behavior to help people. Research is the quest for knowledge. I would say that most people, the majority of people in applied psychology, are into counseling in some form. They can get relationship counseling, substance abuse counseling, child psychotherapists, and so forth. Whereas applied, most people in applied psychology teach, or a lot of them do writing and run experiments. And you need both. I mean, what's the point in having this basic understanding of human behavior if you don't help anybody with it? Okay, at the same time, what if you're doing an outdated technique? So in other words, applied and research kind of go together. Research keeps applied. And think of your most progressive corporations or companies, they have a research and development department. Let's look at how we can improve our product, but also let's look at what our competitors are doing so we can be a step ahead of them. So first, what I want to do is talk about occupations in applied psychology. And so first occupation, counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist. Counselors, they usually have a master's degree in psychology or counseling, and counselors oftentimes refer to themselves as psychotherapists. In other words, they talk to people about their problems. And research has shown that just by talking about your problems or talking about something that's bothering you can help you feel better. Okay, so that's key to counselors. Psychologists uses a PhD in psychology, and basically they can diagnose. In other words, counselors, they can talk to you and work your problems out, but they're not necessarily qualified to diagnose, whereas a psychologist can actually diagnose an individual, tell what type of disorder they have, and so forth. Okay, and so a counselor also has a master's degree. Psychologist usually has a PhD. Then you have psychiatrists. Psychiatrist is a medical doctor. In other words, they go to school, go to medical school, and then take extra classes in psychology so they can become a counselor. If you think about the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist, psychiatrists can write prescriptions, give you drugs, perform surgeries if necessary. Okay, whereas psychiatrists, a lot of psychiatrists, or a lot of psychologists will also can be counselors, but also they can test and assess. Then we have the school system. You have school psychology.